Aloha! I'm not jumping over the chair today because I have very precious cargo in my hands. Escargot. No, not snails. Indigo snake. Eastern indigo snake to be exact. And we're going to talk about their care today. Some of the information is just stuff I'm regurgitating that I've read, heard, or learned from the breeder that I got these snakes from. But I'm also going to talk about how I keep them and a little bit about other stuff like that, their care and maybe what they do in the wild a little bit. Also, really quick, I've got these couple packages that people sent me, and if there's time, I will open them up on this video. If not, then we'll just get to it on tomorrow's video or the next video. Let's jump right into it. So indigo snakes are part of the Drymarchon genus that also includes yellowtail and blacktail crebos, which are their southern counterparts in Central America and South America. There are also Texas indigos, but this here is the eastern variety, and the eastern variety of indigos is the longest species of snake in the United States. And they have a fairly limited range. It's basically Georgia, Florida, and maybe a little bit of southeastern Mississippi. Something to note about indigos is that they are protected. You are legally able to buy captive bred specimens. However, you may need a permit depending on what state you live in. You always need a permit if you're getting it from out of state. I purchased my indigo from a breeder here in California, so I didn't need such permit, but if you're looking to getting one, just make sure you pay attention to that fact. First off, let's talk about their temperament a little bit. From what I've heard, even in the wild, they're very reluctant to bite defensively. From what I understand, you can just go pick one up in the wild and just handle it just like I'm holding my little beautiful boy right here. They're very aware. Their feeding response is incredible. They come flying like a heat-guided missile at their prey, but I can just reach my hand in there without a hook and pick this guy up, no problem. Very aware of things that are prey and things that are not. Temperament, fantastic. Very active, yet very aware. Not just going to do big dumb strikes because they're like, "Nyeh." Their diet in the wild is very diverse. They eat all kinds of stuff. Rabbits, rodents, birds, frogs, lizards, eggs, even other snakes. They're actually immune to venom. So these guys munch on rattlesnakes in certain populations. So that's pretty impressive. And what I feed them here is rodents. I have tried to offer them a ball python I had that crawled out of the egg and died. And neither of my indigos seem to be very interested in it. So maybe if I sent it with the rodents that they've been eating, then that would be a thing, but they didn't. And something I learned from Robert Bruce, which is where I got a lot of my information on indigo snakes, is somebody I consider to be one of the most knowledgeable people. He is the most knowledgeable person I have met in person on indigo snakes. He's worked predominantly with this species for years, and I'm hoping to do a Triple B interview with him again this coming Pomona show. So that'll be cool to see if we can get that happening. As I mentioned, their feeding response is intense and incredible, and they don't actually constrict their prey. They just grab it and power it, just overpower, just grab it, start eating it like crazy beasts. It's a pretty impressive thing to see, and very exciting to watch. Now, what was recommended is that you don't feed them, especially as somebody myself who keeps a lot of pythons, and pythons can stretch their mouths super wide to swallow prey like 3 times the size of their head. Indigos do not have that flexibility in their face necessarily. In fact, you don't really want to feed them anything much bigger than their head. Maybe, definitely not bigger than the thickest part of their body, because they just don't have the jaws that work like pythons do, but they eat a lot, and they will take down just about anything, it seems. I've heard of people feeding like slices of tilapia even. I may start offering these guys quail and whatnot, but the rodents seem to be doing a pretty good job, and they're getting what they need out of the rodents. One other thing that was recommended to me is that I soak them so that their claws soften. Robert did mention that he has lost babies to the rodents' claws tearing their stomach lining, which I thought was interesting. So I always soak them to thaw them in water and let those nails get nice and soft before offering them to the snakes. One other thing Robert mentioned is that if it takes them too long to eat the meal you gave them, then it's probably too big. If it took longer than 5 minutes, I think it was, then he recommended you need to cut down a size because it's too big, and that's why it's taking them too long to eat it. Before we dive any further into this video, I want to point out the fact that I am no expert on snake keeping whatsoever. I just really enjoy it, and I'm soaking up information as I go. A lot of people wanted to see a video on this, so I figured I'd give it my best shot. If you have any other tips or tricks about keeping indigo snakes of your own that you'd like to share, please leave a comment down below.